Capricorn, welcome to your April 2017 General Tarot Forecast. It's Raina here. Yeah, I was time traveling back a year ago. So before I begin, I just wanted to let you know a couple of transits that are happening. And for you, it's really great. I mean, I think you have some of the best because there's going to be a full moon happening in Libra around the 11th of the month. And for you, this is the 10th house of career. So Capricorn rules the 10th house of career. That's why Capricorn has that reputation of, being so ambitious. The 10th house is at the top of the chart, and so it's like your position in the world, your reputation in the world. And the full moon there can bring recognition of some sort. So it can actually be a very good thing. Now, because sometimes full moons are endings, or maybe you decide that you want to do something totally different. That's always possible. But I should mention one thing that's very important in April, which is a Mercury retrograde. And this is happening in Taurus. Taurus is a fellow earth sign, and it's your 5th house of love, creativity, and if you have a home business, it's your hobbies. But you may have some kind of, maybe you hear from an old person that you were dating before. Maybe you have some kind of an artistic project that you pick up again, that you kind of like think, hey, I should do something with that. That's always possible during this time. So I wanted to tell you about that because that's going to be lasting a few weeks into the next month. And I think it's May 3rd when Mercury goes direct. Of course, during this time in general, they always talk about plans falling apart or miscommunication, I guess is the big one, and how you have to be very careful about that, and double checking any paperwork you sign and things like that. The other thing is that there's going to be a new moon in Taurus at the end of the month on April 26th. So that could be a new beginning in a love relationship or a new creative project, that is, as well. So very interesting. That card again. Okay. So the overall theme is the Knight of Wands. This can be a facet of you. Maybe you are deciding to not be so cautious. You throw caution to the wind and you are a lot more, what would we call it? Adventurous in some way. Maybe you've been wanting to do something on your own, and maybe that new moon in the 5th house is starting your own business. But this is, because this is fire energy, this could involve a fire sign. The Knight of Wands is specifically connected to Sagittarius, but the other fire signs are Aries and Leo. So that could be a person that you're thinking about in some way. Yes, of course, relationship. There's some cards in here that indicate relationship. But it could be, a family member, anything. And I think it's interesting, though, because you do have Pluto in this long-term transit through your own sign. So for some of you, this is a facet of yourself that you're developing, that you're becoming less cautious because you've had all these possible surprises or roadblocks thrown your way. What happens to any of us, if we have that happen long enough, we stop being so security minded and we're just looking to for freedom. You know, it becomes like this longing for breaking free from the worry, the, you know, wondering if it's going, if you're going to be able to count on anything in your life. And all of us are experiencing this to some degree. It's probably, I'm thinking, the way it's supposed to be for our greater expansion, so that we stop putting our faith in outer things. But it is for Capricorn, I think it's particularly challenging because as a cardinal sign, you do like to direct your life, and you do like to call the shots. And so you can feel, you know, it can feel very, I don't know, discombobulating, I guess is a way to put it, with Pluto being in your own sign. But the end result is very healing. This can also indicate someone who's involved in an affair. And when I say affair, I don't mean extramarital. I mean a relationship with a partner that is not necessarily one that they are thinking is going to last forever. Because the Knight of Wands can be just like some kind of a passionate type of a relationship. And I mean of the physical variety. In the past, we have the Death card. This is a card associated with transition. So if I were to put those two cards together for a love relationship, I would say somebody has gotten divorced, you know, or left their relationship, and now they are like footloose and fancy free, and they're just like, hey, I'm just going to have fun. For some people, if this is a work situation, you may have been fired, and so now you were forced, against your will maybe, to do your own thing. Maybe you've had many doors shut in your face and you're like fed up with it, and you've taken the initiative. And that's awesome, because you are the kind of person, Capricorn, that tends to, I think, do better when you are in that position of authority to call your own shots. However, Capricorns are perfectly able to take orders from other people, even though they are cardinal signs, because their desire for success is so great. But in the best case scenario, you're like a natural leader. And so, especially with any business that you start, you would be very diligent, you would be, you know, very responsible, and you would probably be very successful if you would even dare to do it. That's the question, because you may be so worried about, will I be able to make predictable amounts of money, and be thinking in those terms, and meanwhile being so cautious that you end up not doing something that would be very beneficial, and trying to fit into these workplaces where perhaps the people that are hiring don't have any sense of loyalty to their employees, and then they just fire them for whatever reason. And this may have been what happened for you, and that alone can be very kind of discombobulating. What is happening right now is represented by the Judgment card, so it's kind of like cause and effect, and this can go any way. In personal relationships, it can be, you tried to make something work and it didn't work, and so eventually it fell apart of its own weight, or its own dysfunction. It fell apart. Maybe you initiated it, maybe you didn't. Maybe it just came about in some way. But this is a sense of rebirth for you. And same with the job. You may have been laid off of a job, and it felt really bad, but now you feel kind of free. It may have taken a while to understand this. Now you may have felt like you got let out of jail. It's also a card of karma. If you felt like someone else did something to you that they, never have had to actually deal with. In other words, that you may have felt that somebody got away with something. And this could also be on the job. It doesn't have to be in the personal life, but regardless, you may have felt like you were a victim of someone. And the Judgment card is about cause and effect. Maybe it's not, apparent right away, but never think of yourself as a victim, because that just drags you down into this feeling of oppression, of persecution. And I just don't believe that this is a random, chaotic universe. I believe everything happens for a reason, and I know that sounds like a cliche. Maybe it is a cliche by now, but still, I really believe that. And I don't think that people suffer randomly. I think that there's a reason, and it may be a soul contract. Who knows? You don't know what you did to that person in another lifetime, So look at it that way. If you need to feel better about yourself, say, well, maybe it's evening the score. Maybe they finally even the score with me, and now we can move on to our separate lives, and we don't have to reincarnate and meet up again. Speaking of reincarnation, I picked a card for the higher message, this card that I always get, the Six of Cups. And this is like, again, suggesting that you look at your relationship or potential relationships in this light. Is it something that is at the soul level, or is it just, are there other ulterior motives? It can be a card that says you are holding out for your soulmate, or your soulmate is on their way. Don't panic. It could be that maybe there was somebody in your past that was your soulmate. Maybe you'll hear from them again. That could always happen. But the point is that that could be a yardstick of like whether or not a relationship is a good one, is because it's something that is soulful, heartfelt, whatever you want to call it, and you have a connection on that level with that person. It's not this sense of being alienated from them. The cups relate to water signs, so this may even be a person in your life that you've kind of like not even looked at as a potential partner, but they're more suitable for you. So that would be a Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, or somebody that has that type of signature in their chart. They may be very compassionate, dreamy, artistic. For professional matters, this could be that it's right underneath that Knight of Wands. It could be that you are taking a chance on doing something that has been kind of burning in your heart for many years. Maybe you just put it to the side and said, this is foolish, I can't make a living doing this, or what have you, and now you've had so many doors closed, you figure you might as well give it a shot. You have nothing to lose at this point. The card that crosses you is the Three of Swords. So this can be a card of feeling betrayal. And in the challenge position, it may be a residue emotion that is blocking your ability to attract someone who is really right for you. Maybe this past relationship was a rebound relationship from somebody else that you were involved with years ago who broke up with you. And this is what I always say, because so many people jump right back into another relationship. And it doesn't have to be either they jump into it as somebody who gets dumped or somebody who is the one who breaks up with the other person. But regardless, if you're jumping from relationship to relationship, it's just not going to be, I think that it's not the best thing, because you're not really taking in the lessons of the relationship. You're just kind of going from one thing to the other in order to do it. And that to me is kind of being thoughtless about it. And it's hard to really learn. Now, this card is also, I would say, saying that you haven't healed yet from something. And maybe it's from this current situation. By the way, this can also be about, you know, your job situation. You may have felt betrayed by somebody there. But regardless, if you've decided to start your own business, or if you decided that you want to find somebody else to love, the point is that if you still are holding this pain inside of you that somebody screwed you over, it's hard to kind of really progress and move on, because you know, you still have that negative vibe, you know, bubbling beneath the surface and kind of maybe even screwing things up for you. So you have to, I think the first thing is to kind of cultivate forgiveness. I know it's not, I'm not like in favor of phony forgiveness. The point I would make about it is that it's more of a question of looking at the situation that occurred from a macro perspective. If you got laid off and you feel like they didn't have to do that, they're just trying to make more money, you know, all that kind of stuff, or they falsely accused you of something or whatever it is, look at it from their perspective and see if perhaps they did it for their own reasons to be happy, even if it was a distorted, you know, goal because they ended up hurting somebody to get where they want. Yeah, of course. But still, the only thing they were trying to do was to make their lives better. And sometimes even when something is selfish, if they do that, we can at least acknowledge that everyone wants to be happy. And sometimes people violate other people in order to become happy. Well, they have to face the consequences. That's what the Judgment card is all about. That's not for you to decide, and you don't know the bigger picture of, you know, what's unfair and what's not, what's fair and what's not fair. You don't know about soul contracts or karma. You don't know what you did and whether or not this was, you know, an evening of the score. And this is helping you to understand something about what it feels like for this to happen. Who knows? The point is not to feel like a victim. The advice, or what's coming in, is the Devil card. This card is connected to Capricorn. I did have somebody write to me and mention that I was, or say that I was calling Capricorns devils. No. Every major arcana card is connected to an astrological sign or a planet that's associated with an astrological sign. And in this case, I know that it's connected to Capricorn, and I believe they say Saturn. But the Devil card represents being overly materialistic, being compulsive. In this type of a reading, because it's a general reading, it could be just about anything that keeps you ensnared. So whether it's, like I told you, that card in the middle was the King of Wands, it could be that some people feel this sense of, I don't know, being let out of prison. If, let's say, you were in a loveless marriage for 20 years and you finally have gotten divorced and you want to sow some oats. And the Devil card is just there saying, okay, whoa, Nelly, you know, be careful. Don't go too far overboard, because you want to, you know, find that soulmate. It's right next to that soulmate card. You want to find that soulmate. You don't want to just have these affairs indefinitely. The other thing is asking you, like, for instance, with career matters, are you choosing jobs based on how much money they make, or are you, you know, like, valuing work based on how much it pays versus how much satisfaction you're getting from it. The Six of Cups is about that soul level of communion, whether it's with another person or whether it's with what you do. And sometimes people can't get over that hump of, oh my God, I want to do this, but it doesn't pay that much money. And it's like, I've even heard people say that about college majors. If somebody wants to major in medieval English poetry or something, oh God, can you imagine how much of a job how much that would pay if you got a job? It's like that's all that they think about, and then you wonder why so many people are miserable. So many people are taking drugs, and not just, I'm not talking about illicit drugs. I mean taking, antidepressants and tranquilizers and all those things, because they're suppressing their unhappiness, and it has to come out somewhere. And so never laugh off or scoff at your sense of purpose in life because you're so concerned about the almighty dollar or the almighty euro or the almighty pound, British pound. But you know what I'm saying. I don't have to spell it out, and I think I just did anyway. The outcome is the Eight of Wands. So this shows a lot of movement, a lot of back and forth, a lot of liveliness. You may feel like somebody just, I don't know, you may feel like you're just lit up and ready to go, raring to go, ready to do something. This could speak about, maybe you hear about a new job and you're very excited. If you're not working for yourself, maybe you hear about a new job and you're just going back and forth and discussing the logistics of it. And for some people, as I said, that full moon is in your 10th house. So for some people, that you may find that you don't have a job, but then maybe you get another job right away. It's a very positive card because there's a lot of excitement associated with it. It may indicate in some cases that you have to make a snap decision in order to take advantage of whatever it is that's being offered or talked about. So this could be related to relationships too. Could be with a fire sign individual. So I had mentioned that in the middle. So maybe it's that person. Maybe they want to have some kind of longer, serious relationship, and if they're pressuring you to just like drop everything, then obviously you should question that, because what's the hurry? But it could be maybe their gang's shipped out somewhere and they want you to join them. So anyway, that sounds very exciting, and I hope you enjoyed this, Capricorn. If you would like a personal reading, please click on the link below this video. Otherwise, have a great April. Bye.